Hello and welcome back. This is a video over 8.2 notes, and this is about solving equations using the multiplication principle. Okay, so when we talked earlier, when we're solving equations, we do opposite operations. Okay, so up here I'm gonna say that we use opposite operations, and what I want you to think about is the opposite of addition was subtraction. Well, remember, the opposite of multiplication, okay, and I also use the that symbol, or I use parentheses to talk about multiplication, is division, okay? So the two go hand in hand, okay? So we're going to use this to, solve equations when we're using multiplication. So the multiplication principle, and let's just think of a true statement, okay? Let's use 30. 30 is kind of a nice, neat number. 30 is equal to 30, okay? Yeah, I didn't like 31. 31's it's a prime number, actually, and I didn't want to use that as this example, but let's use 30. Let's think about something, okay? If I were to manipulate this equation here, okay, this is a true statement, 30 is equal to 30. If I were to multiply this side by 2, okay, then as a result, if I do the math here, 30 times 2, that's going to give me a value of 60. Okay? And in order for me to keep this equation true, if I do something to one side of the equal sign, I have to also do it to the other. Okay? And so this is, if I multiply this by 2, 30 times 2 is going to give me 60 as well. So this is true and this is true. All right, and that's the concept of the multiplication principle, is that when you multiply something on one side of the equal sign, you have to do it to the other. All right, so now, how does it work with division? It does the same thing. Let's start off with 30 is equal to 30. Okay, now if I divide on this left side, if I divide by, say, 5, okay, what happens is if I do 30 divided by 5, that's going to give me 6. Okay? And so what do I have to do to the right side to also get 6? I have to do the same thing. I have to divide by 5. Okay? So if I do 30 divided by 5, that's also going to give me 6, and that leaves me with a true statement. Okay? So division works in the same way. All right? And so if we go through some of these and we want to solve these equations, okay, we got to use those principles, okay? So if I look at this example here, 5x equals 70. Now what this means, okay, you got to think about the operation here, okay? I'm doing 5 times some number is going to give me 70, okay? Now if you think about it, 5 times what is going to give you 70? I would say that x is going to equal 14. Okay, and I just know that, all right? So what I do is I want to get x by itself. That's my goal, all right? Same as what we had before. But because I'm multiplying, then I think, okay, what's the opposite of multiplying? And that's division, okay? And this isn't 17, it's 70, sorry. Let me just rewrite it. 5x is equal to 70, okay? So, and still I'm doing 5 times x. So if I'm multiplying by 5, the opposite of multiplying by 5 would be to divide both sides by 5. Okay? Now, you have to think about something here. What's 5 divided by 5? Okay, that's 1. Okay, something divided by itself is going to give me 1. So what happens here is that I can cross these out, but I don't cancel them out, okay? They don't add to 0, they divide out to 1 over 1, okay? So really what I have here as a result is I have 1 times x is equal to 70 divided by 5. And what's 1 times some number x? That's just going to give me x, okay? So, that's what's happening. All right, whenever I do this, I just divide by 5, I cross them out, and I just leave x, okay? So I have x is equal to 70 divided by 5. Now 70 divided by 5 is equal to 14. All right, so that's where I got that. All right, and so I was able to figure that out. Okay, now if we check this, all right, and we do, okay, well, what's 5 times 14? Is that equal to 70? Okay, and 5 times 14 is 70. 70 is equal to 70. This is true. Therefore, that's my answer. X is equal to 14. That's my solution. Okay? All right, moving on. Let's do another one. On this one, it says negative 4x is equal to 92. Okay, so really, I'm going to rewrite this and write this as negative 4 times x is equal to 92. Okay, now I'm going to divide both sides by negative 4. Okay, since I'm multiplying by negative 4, the opposite of multiplying by negative 4 is dividing by negative 4. So I do that to both sides, and I get negative 4 divided by negative 4. So then I get x is equal to 92 divided by 4. So let's do that. 92 divided by 4 is going to give me 23. So x is equal to 23. Okay, now if we check this, all right, I get negative 4 times 23. Oops, this is negative 23. Okay, because a positive divided by a negative is going to give me a negative. So now I got to change this over here. So negative 4 times negative 23. Is that going to equal 92? Okay, so if I take a negative times a negative, that's a positive. So I'm going to just write it as 4 times 23. Is that equal to 92? All right, and that's true. Okay, I get 92 is equal to 92. That's true. So then that's my solution. All right, and that's it. Okay, now we have to do the opposite. Okay, and what this says is we're going to use reciprocals to solve equations. And on these two examples here, I'm not really going to use the reciprocal necessarily, but I will use the reciprocal over here, and I'll show you guys, why the reciprocal is really important. Okay, but over here, when I have just like 14, negative 14 is equal to negative y divided by 2. This one's a little tricky because you have this negative y up here. I'm going to rewrite this first because I've told you guys before that if I have negative 14 is equal to this, I can do y divided by negative 2. Remember how I told you it doesn't matter which one the negative sign goes in? In this case, I'm going to put it down here, okay? And so, and here's the thing. Some number, let's read this, some number y divided by negative 2 is going to give me negative 14. So if I'm dividing by negative 2, what's the opposite of dividing by negative 2? And that would be multiplying by negative 2. Okay, and I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm going to multiply this by negative 2. All right, now here's the thing. When I do negative 2 divided by negative 2, what's negative 2 divided by negative 2? All right, and then I'm just going to do negative 2 divided by negative 2 is going to equal positive 1. This divides out to 1, and what you're left with is you're just left with y. Okay? So if you're doing this division, then you need to just multiply both sides by the denominator, okay? But now over here, I've got negative 2 times negative 14, and that's going to give me, what, positive 28? Okay, so I've got positive 28, and that's what y is equal to, all right? Now, if we check this, all right, what ends up happening is we get, negative 14 is equal to, say, 28 divided by negative 2. Okay, are these two equivalent? All right, if I take 28 and divide it by negative 2, that's going to give me negative 14. Okay, and that equals negative 14. And that's true, so that's my solution. Okay, and we're done. All right, let's take a look at the next one. All right, same thing over here. Negative y divided by 9. I'm going to rewrite this, okay? I'm going to rewrite this as y divided by negative 9 is equal to positive 14. So if I'm dividing by negative 9, the opposite of dividing by negative 9 is to multiply both sides by negative 9 and by negative 9. Okay, and negative 9 divided by negative 9 divides out to 1, and as a result, you're left with just y is equal to 14 times negative 9. Now that I got to do in the 14 times 9 is 126. So this is going to give me negative 126. Okay, and if I were to check this, all right, if I took negative 126 divided by negative 9, is that going to give me 14? Okay, and that's true. Okay, negative divided by a negative is going to give me a positive, and that's going to be positive 14 is equal to 14. This is true, so that's my solution. Okay, now over here on this one, I want you guys to pay close attention to this one. This one's tricky. And what it said, and this one is hard to do in your head. Okay, this one I can't even do in my head. I have to like actually write it down and do the math. And what it says here is that I have 3/8 is equal to negative 5/4 times some number. And we got to figure out what that number is. So let's do this. Let's rewrite it first as, and I'm going to do negative, I'm going to kind of leave a little bit of space. Negative 5/4 times x, and that's going to be equal to 3/8. Okay. Now the problem is that I don't have an opposite operation. I mean, I could divide by a fraction, but I don't like to divide by fractions. Okay. When we divide by fractions, really what we want to do is we want to multiply by the reciprocal. So I'm going to multiply this by the reciprocal, 4 over negative 5. And if I do it to that right side, I still have to do the same thing to the left side. So I'm going to multiply this by 4 over negative 5. Okay. Now, when I multiply these two fractions together, when I multiply this across, 4 times negative 5 is going to give me negative 20. Negative 5 times 4 is also going to give me negative 20. And then we multiply that by x. Okay, and I'm going to rewrite this over here, 4 over negative 5 times 3/8. Okay, so now think about it. Negative 20 divided by negative 20 is 1. So this divides out to 1. And so then you're just left with x on the right side. So if you get 4 times 3, that's going to give you 12. And then negative 5 times 8, that's going to give you negative 40. So then we've got 12 over negative 40. Each of these we can divide by 4. Okay, so if I divide that by 4 and this one by 4, 12 divided by 4 is going to give us, what's it called? 3. And then negative 40 divided by 4 gives me negative 10. So x is equal to negative 3/10. Okay. Now we still need to check this, and this is where it gets a little tricky. And this is why we have to be able to operate and multiply fractions together so that we can figure this out. All right. So what ends up happening is let's rewrite our original equation and check this. So I've got 3/8 is equal to negative 5/4 times x, which is 3 over 10. All right, and so if we multiply this across, or this is negative 10, okay, multiply that across, we're going to get negative 15, okay, negative 5 times 3 is negative 15, 4 times negative 10 is negative 40, is that equal to 3/8? Okay, and so, first things first, negative divided by a negative is going to give me a positive, so we end up getting 3/8 is equal to 15/40, and I'm going to divide each of these by 5 on the right side, and so we get 3/8 is equal to 15 divided by 5 is 3, 40 divided by 5 is 8, so 3/8 is equal to 3/8. This is true, therefore that's my solution. Okay. It is a little bit, difficult to, do the ones with the fractions, but, it's pretty necessary for this class. So on this one, guys, I want you to do problems 1 through 27 odd. And then, if you have any questions, let me know. And thanks for watching. See you in a bit. Bye.